So when you plant trees in Unity, you're planting them in a Unity terrain, and then Unity is presenting them to you in the scene and also in game mode. However, when you build your course, you need to convert those trees into what we call game objects, because Unity planted trees before they're converted to game objects cannot be used game side. There's some specific things like colliders that we need in those trees in order to be used in GS Pro. So this video, I'm going to show you how to convert those. It's really simple, but if not done correctly, you can get yourself into a little bit of problems. And I also want you to understand about double rendering and how that can impact performance. So here we are, we just are a few of our planted trees, and you're going to have a lot more of these, obviously. And right now, if we look in our scene hierarchy over here, we don't really see the trees, okay? We know that they're on the terrain because if I disable the terrain, the trees disappear, right? I can also disable tree and object details right here, and those trees disappear. But in their current form, they are not game objects because we do not see them listed anywhere over here. So we need to convert them to game objects. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to come up here to, I believe it's under the tools, and we go to tree replacer. We're going to open up tree replacer, and this is a very simple tool. We're just going to take the terrain that we have our trees planted on. In this case, it's our terrain inner. We're going to drop it into the slot there, and we're going to do convert the objects. At that point, you think, well, it didn't really do much, did it? Well, it did. So you see now we have this top level container over here called trees generated. And if I open that up, it lists now all my trees that I created in Unity are now game objects. So here's a tree right here. There's a tree. Here's a tree. There's a tree. Here's another tree here. These are now all game objects. But the important thing to understand, and let me close this, we'll open this again in a minute, to understand is we're now drawing our trees twice, okay? We have our trees generated and our terrain is drawing them. So let me show you. So if I turn off trees generated, I disable it, where do my trees go? Well, my trees generated disappear, but my terrain trees are still there. So let me turn off my terrain. Actually, let's turn off base draw. And you can see that now they completely disappear. And if I come down here to trees generated and I turn them on, now they're only being drawn twice. I'm sorry, now they're only being drawn once, and now they're being drawn twice. And even better yet, if I open up my game, I'll even show you this in the statistics. You can see I've got 960,000 tries going on right now. So if I turn on my inner draw, that drops by about 200K, okay? And if I turn off draw on my trees generated, it drops again. So you can see with both these turned on, we are getting a little bit of a performance impact. So that's important. Let me turn off game mode. Now what if you need to make changes or plant some more trees? First of all, let me tell you that I would avoid making edits to game objects like this broadleaf desktop. I could come in here and I could move it around a little bit. Okay, so I could drop this over here and then put it down so it looks okay. I could do that, but now the trees that I generated aren't matching up to the trees in my inner, okay? So what I would recommend is always plant via your inner. So let me come back in here, trees, and let me pick my broadleaf desktop, and boom, I just planted a bunch of them. Not really one of them, but you get the point. So I got those planted, but now if you see, if I turn off my terrain inner, it doesn't match my trees generated. So I have to convert these to game objects again. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to come back up there to my tool, tree replacer, and I'm going to drag in my inner. However, I got to be really careful here because if I convert to objects, if I do that, I'm going to convert all these objects again in addition to the ones I already have in trees generated. So let me just do that. So I'm going to say convert to objects. And now I'm essentially like triple planting trees. I've got twice as many in my game objects because the original ones and the new ones are still there, and I'm still drawing with my terrain inner. So before we do this, the best thing to do is do clear generated trees. All right, and now convert to objects, and now I'm only drawing twice. because I've got my trees generated, which matches my terrain drawn trees. I can come in here into foliage, I'm sorry, my terrain, and I can turn off draw, and now I'm only drawing once, okay? And this is the state that we wanted in when we build for game, so we're only drawing our trees once, okay? So that's how we convert our objects, our trees to game objects.